Okay, we're gonna get a Sicilian here. I apologize for the weird start, but it looked like he was gonna abandon the game, and I stopped the recording, but he made a move. So we're gonna get an Alapin Sicilian. Hmm. Never played our opponent before. He's been on chess.com for a long time from Slovakia. All right, he's gonna go with this kind of French setup, Paulson Sicilian type setup, which I play myself. So I think advancing is the principal move here. But then we go into a French, very weird French, where he can push here, play for queenside, and I would play for kingside. Market exchange, and we could go into an isolated pawn scenario. And I think I'm going to exchange, which I know just opens up his bishop, but this is territory I'm a little more comfortable with. I'm expecting he takes with pawn, and I'm just going to continue development. Get my knight out, develop my bishop, get castled. That's my plan. Now he takes with the queen. He takes with the queen. So we kind of transpose to the Barmen defense. So I'm going to continue with my plan of development. It's odd that he didn't take back with the pawn. That just gives the bishop more scope, and um, I think this is playable. I don't see anything immediately wrong with this move, but it made better sense to open the bishop up, in my opinion. Okay, he develops the knight. Throwing in a check just doesn't really appeal to me. It just gets blocked. He blocks with the bishop or the knight, and I'm not interested in trading pieces right now. So if we go to this square, D3, that looks like a decent square for the bishop, because he's going to castle kingside. Might provoke a C4 push. And let's get our rook to the open file. And then start thinking about where I want my queenside pieces here. Knight here, looking at here and here, I think was a pretty good option on my previous move too. Should have considered that. Okay. I'm not worried about takes, 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 because that's a nice common trick in the French. So I'm going to develop my knight here. Leave this diagonal open for the bishop. Although he can take, and then take here now. Which looks not so great for me, but yeah, okay. What if I gambit the pawn? And I threatened to come up here, save my knight. And he doesn't have time to take back because I would fork. So he can win the pawn back with the knight. After he decides what he wants to do with his queen, he'll probably move the queen back here to get out of this fork. And then I just take the pawn back. Now I could be considering, okay, so he takes knight for knight, or I was going to split his pawns. So I have the choice of going into an isolated queen pawn, or taking with the knight and leaving my 3-on-2 queenside majority intact. I think I'll do that. Now this bishop needs a home. Think about coming here to e3, f4. I don't really like g5. Just gets kicked, and I'm not interested in trading it for the knight. Although that creates weakness. I drop it back. He'd be very brave to push g5 himself. But then what am I doing on this diagonal? Like, maybe. I mean, worth considering. And f4 kind of runs into a similar, I mean, it just gets attacked. And then what am I doing with it? If I drop it back, the knight can still take. I don't want to give up the bishop pair. I move forward. He can kick it with pawn. I still have to move back. He still trades the knight for the bishop, and I lose the bishop pair. So f4 is probably not a great move. I don't like bishop f4. So that leaves bishop f3 or bishop g5. e3, bishop e3 or bishop g5. On e3, there's no knight here attacking it. Maybe he just develops his bishop. He's got to move here. He can develop his bishop now. I go e3, bishop e3. And so he goes rook c8. What's my plan? Hmm. I don't see a clear plan for me there. I don't know what the bishop's doing on e3 except for blocking the rook. Attacks this pawn, but I've got to move my knight first. And then he just advances it. Okay. I suppose that leaves bishop here. It does allow me to provoke weakness at the very least. Um, I'm not interested in trading it for the knight. If he moves the knight, I get to take off the bishop. Queen here attacking the pawn. Attacking my b2 pawn. What if I defend it? Defend it with the queen. Develop my queen to a good square. Pile up some more pressure on this e file. I think that's my idea. Could have come c2. But then, I don't know. I wanted my queen in front of the bishop for this battery. This does form a battery with the queen in the back, but it also puts my queen on a half open file for him. And the rook is naturally coming to e8 or c8. And this pawn is suddenly pinned, and he might have ideas of taking the knight. So my solution, moving the queen to c2 is, I don't know what it's doing there, because I'd have to move the knight. And the only good square looks like backwards. So I'm just kind of giving him the initiative and letting him develop. a little better, I think. It puts me on the defense. This way I get to stay attacking. Okay. Rook to the center. I would have brought this rook and saved that rook for the c file. But I don't know. So I've got a choice of I can bring my rook to the center. If I bring my rook to the center and he does something like knight to d5. I trade bishops, he brings the knight back. Then I suppose I have queen here. He has to block that. No, I think that's my natural looking move at least. Very much like my central dominance. Not sure the purpose there. Maybe it's just to bring the bishop, but my knight is setting right there. What ideas of a knight f5, pawn takes, queen takes, then I run into rook here. And the queen is not quite trapped. Got to retreat. Then he trades rooks, and this bishop's hanging. So that doesn't look like it works either. However, repositioning the knight. This looks like a very good square for the knight also. I give up anything, it gives up this square and this square. Could provoke bishop here, but here I can still trade off with the bishop. He can try to trade queens. I don't know that I like that either. My plan here. I have total, like, central dominance. He goes bishop here. I might have this pawn block as well. The knight would be hanging because there'd be two attackers. Never mind. this now, but that's just bait. He doesn't have to take it. He can ignore that. And what does that pawn move really accomplish me? Besides weakening this square and this square. Well, I could retreat the bishop and swing the queen over to c2 and form this battery up. Provoke the weakness. And his light squares, all of his pawns would be on light squares. And if I could just trade off the dark square bishops, I wouldn't mind working against his light square bishop. Let's do that. I'll refill my coffee real quick. Almost down to 5:45. Set at 6:38. Okay. Good time management so far. I think my bullet games lately have done a lot for my time management. It's terrible for calculation. It is absolutely horrible for calculation, but blitzing out in bullet chess, like the opening moves, so frequently that they're just kind of ingrained, helps you get into the middle game a lot quicker when you need to start calculating more, and helps you in time pressure as well. Um, Horrible for calculation. That's why I play the rapid, longer time controls. So I'm trying to focus on calculation here. But there is something for bullet and blitz chess. It's just not all the time. We've got to mix up your time controls in order for that to be helpful. Playing blitz and bullet all the time just it's not great for your calculating abilities in long time controls. I like having the queenside pawn majority. That can be an end game factor. We're a little ways from an end game though. Although it feels like trades are going to happen sometime soon. Um, it's my intention to swing the queen over and threaten h7. I'll be threatening to take the knight and then checkmate on h7, so he would have to block that threat. Queen here, g6 blocking. And then I've got dark square weaknesses around. Attacking the rook just helps him develop, so I'd leave the bishop alone. Um, Might think about, I don't know, my king placement. I'd love to be pushing f4, but I don't want to run into any kind of pins here. So maybe f4 at a later time. I guess the queen side's where my pawn majority is. I should be thinking about pushing over there. Okay, I thought that might come. So he's offering the trade. What if we threaten mate first? And then he blocks. What if I threaten mate up here? And then he attacks the queen. Then I back up and he trades bishop. I take. It leaves his knight here on this good outpost square. If I take, he has to retreat the knight. Then he can block here. I want to provoke a pawn weakness, so I think I threaten mate first, but I do it from c2, where the queen can't be attacked. And then I swap the dark square bishops off. So free bishop, but mate. So there's my pawn weakness that I wanted. And to trade or not to trade? Forcing the rook off has an appeal. So if I attack the rook and force the rook off, it weakens f7. The king is the only protector of f7. And I could think about moving the knight to attack f7. So before, I think that's a pretty good idea. Let's do that. Okay. And now I want to reposition the knight. And I got to be careful about starting to make quick moves. I noticed that I made that move fairly quickly. I'd already kind of formulated the plan, but I see my opponent's clock ticking, and I've got this urge to keep the time pressure on. Um, so I can protect the bishop and protect the bishop, or I can take. If I take, I bring a rook right back to defend. So I can defend the bishop from here or from here. D2 or C1. And I like c1 because it keeps my queen off of any potential discoverers after these pieces are moved away. Don't mind him taking my bishop and just brings my queen closer to the attack. The knight would follow up on g5 and black would be devastated. So he's not likely to take. I guess devastated is a strong word. He can bring his knight back to f6 to defend. Opponent's approaching a minute, so he's got to be feeling the time pressure. Wish I could get my queen here. Would it be worth it for exchange sacrifice? He attacks the knight. Now that he can't bring his rook back, I think I might go ahead and trade the bishops, because this is a more important piece for him to cover these light and dark square weaknesses, and the knight is very nicely placed. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to calculate the exchange sacrifice here real quick. Takes. If bishop takes, queen here. Now the king is here protecting the square, so queen here is met with f6. And I suppose knight back to g4. And rook f8 would be met by, I don't know, the queen would be defending this. So, oh, well, the queen can come here with check. That feels pretty good, but I don't know about like hard calculation. Are there other options? I'm coming down on time. And I hate to just sack a rook without really calculating bishop takes. He has the option of pawn takes, but um, let's bring our rook up. I didn't calculate that thoroughly, and I started to feel a little bit of time pressure, but I think that's a solid move. It blocks this diagonal potential on the queen. The rook's defended. I didn't want to just snap an exchange sacrifice off without really knowing what's going on there, just because of time pressure, and end up in a losing position because I didn't calculate it thoroughly. My opponent's got less time than I do, so let's make him feel the pressure. I didn't have to. Okay. That gives up this pawn, but the knight's pinned now. I could get some additional. I should have pushed the G pawn, not the H pawn. I need another attacker on the knight. Although H pawn, I could push that again. So that's, yeah, he does have to do that. Um, Queen here. The threat of bishop takes pawn. Leaves this pawn hanging, but I don't mind because I'm gonna target these pawns. Bishops, the knight's not pinned anymore. I've got lift for my king, so there's no back rank problems. Okay. I think I still am threatening. Knight takes or bishop takes? I think either one is bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, king back to the corner. Is that just a perpetual? Here, here. I think bishop takes. Just saw that move. And now the knight's under attack. Okay, he's defended that. I think I've run into a problem here. So I've got a check, followed by a check. Ooh, but he's got the knight. Take here. Okay. Ah, ah, well done. Good game, fellow. I lost in the tactics there at the end, and he saw them quite quickly. It was a good game. I think I had the advantage for quite a while, and I did. I just fell off a cliff at the end. So this very familiar position for me. I'm pretty comfortable in this. Ran really good moves. An equal game. Didn't like the bishop move as much, and I was torn between e3 and g4 or g5. Curious what it thinks is that I just developed the queen and attack the undefended pawn. Okay, noted. It's a very equal position. White just has a slight edge. Dead equal. There's a mistake. Then I should have taken. And they didn't like my rook. One of my other ideas here, I was considering this. I was considering it. No, that would have been a blunder. Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't just make a snap judgment there without calculating. So what else was I considering? I'm not really sure. Maybe it wants me to take the bishop, or maybe I just create lift already. Just create a little escape for the king. Okay, just go to d3. Threaten to swing over. Well, thanks for watching. I know that I lost this in tactics at the end here, but it was a very good game until around this point. So we made another blunder. Taking with the bishop was right. That was a blunder. I have a winning game here. That was my blunder. I should have come out. That lost me the game right there. Just playing quick moves without looking. Go from a 5.5 to mate and 2. That's how it happens. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Come back and watch some more chess.